Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this edition of the Players NIL Insider Podcast. My guest today, Kirsten Jones. Kirsten, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Mark. It's great to be here.
Well, I'm excited about it. We just, had a little preamble, and I can see that we're symbiotic in our thoughts and in our vision. So I'm excited to learn from you, and to have you share some of your wisdom and your knowledge. You're an author, a speaker, podcaster, peak performance and sports parenting coach. What I'm most interested in talking about today is your book, Raising Empowered Athletes. I have to tell you that every time I look at that title, my head goes to Raising Entitled Athletes. Maybe it's a mental slip or something like that. But tell us a little bit about your background as an athlete, as a executive at Nike. Give us a little context for what gave you the power and the mission to write Raising Empowered Athletes.
I'm 55. I grew up in Montana, Missoula, Montana, Western Montana in the 70s and 80s, where you played whatever sport was in front of you. My parents cared about piano and ballet, which made my skin crawl. All I cared about were anything that had a ball. So played all the sports really except soccer. Soccer wasn't available in the area that I grew up in, but softball and skiing, downhill skiing and tennis and cross country skiing, and did the ballet and piano to appease the parents. But once I got to high school, volleyball became a sanctioned sport my freshman year of high school. This tells you how, 1972 is Title IX. But finally, by, mid 80s, volleyball became a sanctioned sport. So I played volleyball and basketball all the way through high school. Was a part of 3 state championship volleyball teams, 1 state championship basketball team, and a team who went 32-1. Yes, very memorable to have been the lead dog and lose it all in the last 3 minutes of your basketball game. But
Wow.
yeah, it hurt. But that experience, I was very lucky.
Not that you're harboring any ill will
No
towards that
resentment.
game. Yeah, no
40
resentment.
years later. Get over it, Kirsten. But my parents were both my dad was a doctor, went to Penn. My mom was a nurse. They valued education. They really wanted my twin sister and older sister and I to get into the best school you could get into. Like that was their goal. If you want to do this sports thing, fine, but you need to figure that out. I got recruited really seriously by one school, University of Montana in my hometown, to play both basketball and volleyball, but heard about a tryout in Vienna, Austria, or not Vienna, it was later, in Colorado Springs on the junior national team. So I did go down and try out for the junior national team, and the San Diego State assistant coach was there. So short story long, I ended up walking on at San Diego State with the blessing of my parents, which was amazing when I look back on that now. Having never been to the school, having never met the head coach, never met any of the players or knew anything about it beyond what was in the big book that you bought at the bookstore that told you about the details of 35,000 people go to San Diego State and all of that. Got to San Diego State and was told, you're a very good athlete. You're not a very good volleyball player, shocker, but we can train you. What's great is you've obviously played a lot of sports and you're learning very quickly. So I redshirted, played 2 years there, and it wasn't a great fit, again, shockingly, given that I hadn't really done my homework. But my older sister had gone to UVA, not for sports, but for education. And she told me, oh, you should transfer over here to the East Coast. There's this little school down south, William and Mary. So I sent my VHS tape with my Prime ticket and ESPN footage on it to several schools, including William and Mary, and got a phone call from that coach on my answering machine saying, you need to come to William and Mary. Best decision I ever made. Transferred there and got to play 2 years before the portal was a thing. The coach released me. And had the best 2 years because I got to, again, be with all of these amazingly talented academic sport. They were really about academics first and then great sports. And we won the conference and got to play at a super high level, but graduated with this degree in Japanese. I had lived in Japan for a summer, and being 6 feet tall and blonde, thought maybe not the best place for me. But both of my sisters had migrated to Eastern Europe. So I moved to Budapest, Hungary after college, and was there for 2.5 years before I kept going, oh God, what is it I meant to do? Like, I really love sports. Okay, I'm not getting recruited anymore. Oh yeah, there's this company, Nike. Where do they have an office? and they had an office in Vienna, Austria. So I literally wrote them a letter, yes, handwritten letter, and jumped on a train and showed up on their doorstep and said, you should hire me. And a couple weeks later, I moved to Vienna, left my sisters behind, and joined Nike in 1995 in Vienna. Then ended up spending a total of 10 years in Europe, 7 of that with Nike in Stockholm and Amsterdam at their European headquarters. And then end up, met a cute guy along the way who happened to be from Eugene, Oregon. He joined Nike as well. We ended up getting married. We ended up back at world headquarters for another 7, 8 years. So it was a great ride. And while I was doing all of that, started a family. And when you get pregnant for the first time, at least back in the day, they would hand you the literal book, What to Expect When You're Expecting. And you're like, sweet, I am going to be the best parent ever because you have the Bible. You just read the book, and every week you know exactly what to do. And then you get to kick and chase, and there's some yahoo standing next to you on the sidelines going, "You're not doing this rec thing, are you? Like, we're going to Sweden this summer. We've got a private coach." And here I was, having played all the sports, having played D1 volleyball, having worked with the best athletes in the world at Nike, and I was feeling the FOMO. And I was feeling like, am I doing it wrong? Like, should I be doing this? Like, am I supposed to be keeping up with the Joneses, whoever they are? And so the foundational idea of the book started way back then when my kids I have 3 children who are now 24, 21, and 19. But right when we started T-ball and kick and chase and all the things was when the idea really started percolating.
Yeah, great story. Fascinating. We talked a little bit before about, what does success look like to you? And maybe you didn't know for a while, but once you figured it out, it seems like you chased it pretty hard.
Yeah, it's funny when you look back on yourself I was never like the super outgoing kid, or I didn't see myself that way. I was actually quite shy, but there was something inside of me. And that's what I tell parents. Like when parents are I work with parents and their athletes now and teams and schools. And when they're trying to say, okay, I'm really all in on this, and she's a really great soccer player and she's 12. And okay, and so what does all in mean? Like, what does she do when she comes home? Well, she really just wants to go read her book. Okay, like does she do extra? Is she outside in the backyard? Is she the first one in the car? Is she asking for, like, those are indications that it really is their passion. And I think it's very confusing for parents because they've done all the things, they've bought the lessons, they've supported them on all the things. But when you come to get Sarah on the phone and she says, actually, I'd really just rather go hang with my friends. Again, it's not bad. Most 8, 10, 12-year-olds don't know what flavor ice cream they want. They can't possibly know what they want to do in, whatever, 5, 7 years. And you have parents get on the phone, well, my kid really wants to play D1 soccer. Really? Are you sure about that? Yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah. I asked her. I said, do you want to play D1 soccer? And she said yes. Right? Like, there's not a child out there that wants to disappoint their parents. So
Right.
again, I don't blame the parent. I think we're all doing the best we can. And that's my book. It doesn't have all the answers. I don't have a PhD in this. It's lived experience, and there's stories in there that are sharing things I've seen and experiences I've had with my own kids and others about what does it look like when it's going well? And then what happens when it's not? And I'm getting a
Right.
lot of parents reaching out saying, ooh, that's me. Like, ugh, I'm doing that.
So working for that 4-letter word, Nike, Nike, for many years, you know, they're a big part of this youth sports machine, right? The commercialization of youth sports. Maybe it started with Michael Jordan. Everybody wanted to be like Mike, right? What an amazing campaign. Certainly the proliferation of television and production. I think the famous story is that, Magic Johnson and Larry Bird in the early 80s in the NBA, their games were tape delayed on midnight in the NBA finals. Can you imagine that today? Today, we know when they get out of their car on Twitter or some live social platform. So this commercialization, not just Nike, but all sports manufacturers, equipment manufacturers, uniform manufacturers, marketing companies have made it cool to be an athlete. What role has that played into the pressure of youth sports and the pressure that parents feel?
Well, to your point about Michael Jordan, I mean, even before Mike, there was Sonny Vaccaro who was going to events from Nike, representing Nike, handing out free product. Like this whole NIL thing has been going on for decades, and a lot of it is under the table. Like nobody really talked about it. It's been happening. It just hasn't been as overt as it is now. And absolutely, all of these brands are complicit in this. And where there's money, that's what people are going to follow. They're going to follow the money, and then all your shoe teams and everything that's come because of that. And now with schools, they're happy to, again, as we talked about before we started recording, if a school can spend 25 million, 80% of that's going to go to the football program if they have it, then probably, whatever, 10 to 15% is going to go to basketball, and whatever's left over will be given to whoever is left over. But there's now just, I mean, I heard Indiana last year, they fired the coach, and they were looking at bringing in a whole new squad with $25 million. Like, this is insane. This is not healthy for what these kids mentally and what we've seen. I don't know if you want to go into all this, but never enough. These kids are feeling like they don't have the tools yet that an adult, or even, we used to talk about, these kids that go pro at 20, 21, 22, and can they handle it? Well, now you're asking a 14, 15-year-old to handle it with all of the pressure and, NIL deals in Texas now in high school. And to your point, it's the 2% that are going to get the money. So it's bandied around like it's, everybody
Yeah,
can get it. It's on the corner. It's not on the corner for everybody. This is so few people that will even have access to it. And if your kid gets a full ride to college and you can walk away debt free, that's the beginning of your 40-year plan. And
yeah.
that's what most of us should be focused on.
I always said when we were going through the process that my goal was for my kids to use athletics to get to a school that they might not be able to get into academically, right? To reach a level above. And we were successful in doing that. One of your famous quotes is, you often say, we aren't raising athletes, we're raising adults. But I have a question for you about that. So on a personal level, having lived this, when you're in the heat of it, when the pressure's on, whether it's the car ride home and they didn't play well, or the ride to the game and it's an important game and there's recruiting going on, coaches there, what do you do to remind yourself of that? We're raising athletes. We aren't raising athletes, we're raising adults. What triggers do you use to bring yourself back to middle line?
Our children will listen to, particularly the teen years, will listen to almost nothing of what we say, but they watch everything we do. And
Mm,
they're taking notes as to how are we interacting with coaches and parents, and how are we behaving on the sidelines. And sometimes I feel like if I could even just give that gift to parents, is we get so sucked into the vortex. And believe you me, there isn't a parent out there that isn't trying to fight for what's best for their kid. But
mm,
when we can separate ourselves from the situation and realize, okay, as much as I'd like to, whatever, yell at the coach, yell at the ref, make a big scene, transfer to a different club, when I think about it through the eyes of my child, and when I was researching this book, the number of stories of grown adults that would tell me their story in tears about experiences they had. One tennis player is 45 years old, and she says, I'm just trying to not do what my dad did to me. I
mm.
remember winning a match and my dad dropping me off 5 miles up on the PCH. I had to walk 5 miles home. I don't even remember the match. I can't remember. I know I wasn't trying to lose, right? So if we can actually separate ourselves from our own emotion, but I think with the amount of money and time and resources that we spend, we get sucked into the vortex too, and we forget who we're really doing it for.
Yeah. I have this philosophy about parenting, and you talk about highways, made me think of it. So let's assume that parenting is like a highway, and you have a lane going this way and a lane going this way, and in the middle is the center line, on the edges are the shoulders. Down the center is, a healthy parent-child relationship. In one lane is the out-of-control parent, right? In the other lane is the aloof parent that doesn't show up, that's never around. You got to go pick up the kids from that house to bring them to practice, otherwise they won't get there, right? And on either side are shoulders. and those shoulders can grab you. And parents drift back and forth. Me too. Everyone. We've all had moments where we go, oh, why did I say that? Or, geez, I should have done this, or I wish I'd gotten home for that, or whatever those stories are. But, healthy relationships, you come back to the center line. The unhealthy parents drift off to the shoulder and never come back, right? And I think that's what you're talking about. Does that make sense?
Yes. And I do agree. There are parents that, and there are 2% of these are like, you're an idiot, Kirsten. I don't care. The Ball brothers, these kind of dads that are like, Todd Marinovich, like, you don't know anything. And my kid's going pro. And to those people, I honestly wish you the best. But at
Mm,
some point, you're going to be looking back on this story, the story of your kid's childhood. What are the stories? I feel for me, that's the best way to do it is to look at perspective. When we look at the Stoics and the Stoicism, the biggest lesson out of Stoicism is being able to separate yourself from what's actually going on. So we like to look through the world with rose-colored glasses, or we look through them with blue-colored glasses. What if we took the glasses off and just looked at the glasses and told the story of, you know, again, a call a week from a parent who's like, yeah, we're all in and we spent all the money and I can't, I'm having sleepless nights. I had a D1 soccer player dad on the phone the other day. He was D1 and he's like, the number of sleepless nights I've had over my son's soccer team and what level he's making. And I was like, okay, and what level is that? He's like, well, he's 9. You're like, you're so wrapped around the axle. He's 9, right? Like, that's so scary. Another dad who played 12 years in the NFL reached out and he's like, it's me. I'm the problem. It's me. He's like, somebody gave me your book. And he's like, I've been handing it out like hotcakes because my 10 and 8-year-old, he goes, I feel like I've already ruined them. I said, what do you mean? He goes, I'm so intense because I know how much work it takes to get there. And
yeah,
I feel like we're behind.
yeah,
And I was like, okay, really good news. You're not behind. And
yeah.
two, it's never too late to make a repair with your kid. And wouldn't it be great if, whatever, 3, 6, 12 months from now, look at dad. Look how much more chill he is now. Remember when dad used to do that crazy thing in the car ride home and he would talk about every single play that we did? Like we can always learn. And I hope, like, to me, that's the point of this is that we're also learning and growing. And they are such wise teachers if we allow them to be. That
Yeah.
dad of the 9-year-old, he said, yeah, my 7-year-old says to me, I think this rec or this club soccer is ruining my summer. She's 7. She's
Yeah,
telling you what she wants to do.
yeah, yeah.
Dad's like, yeah, but we're behind. If we quit club soccer now, she'll never catch up.
But it's what we're being told. Not we, my kids are grown, but it's what we're being told as a society, and it goes back to the commercialization. These messages are being told by who? People that are making money and profiting from that, right? The travel team coaches, the events, the travel organizations, whatever that is. I want to come back to the book. Tell me what chapter resonated with you, but in a way that you didn't expect. What was the most emotional chapter for you to write?
Um, it's a great question. I've never been asked that. I was bullied in high school because I was in a teeny tiny town. I wasn't even in the big town of Missoula. I was outside of that town as a freshman in high school, and I made the varsity team. Again, probably because I was 5'11" and the girls weren't. And they really did a number on me. And I never told my parents. I I was very close with my parents and I respected them and we had a great relationship. And would love to go back into the head of my 14, 15-year-old self. I think I thought this was, you just don't know. And I think a lot of abuse is that way. You don't know that anybody else goes through it. So you assume you just need to put up with it. And you need to fight through it. And so that was very hard. And in fact, I was going to take it out. And then my editor was like, you're absolutely not taking this out. And you need to share this story because again, there's a lot of great coaches out there, but I like to compare. There's the John Woodens, but there's a lot of Bobby Knights too. And one of the thing, and some kids don't care, water off a duck's back. I don't care what you say to me. And then there are other kids who are very sensitive and finding, and not sensitive in a soft, this generation soft, but I don't need to be told that, I suck and I'm the worst human out there and to be belittled and to be allowed to be belittled by my teammates with the coach's endorsement.
Yeah,
So I think for parents who are listening or coaches who are listening, I feel like every kid on that roster, your job isn't to make, I mean, what I see here in Los Angeles is it's easy to coach the All-Americans. I mean, easy in that they got talent, they got work ethic. They're probably bigger or more athletic than most. But what about those kids like on a volleyball roster that are 8 to 12 to 15 to 21 on your roster? What
Mm,
if you could make that athlete, the 21st person on your roster, become the 17th kid on your roster? That to me is a sign of great coaching. I see you. I see what, and that doesn't mean I'm promising you playing time. It has nothing to do with playing time. It means I see what you bring. There's a great book I'm sure you probably read, but the Captain's Class, and he breaks down the 16 leadership skills every team needs. We're not all going to be Ronaldo or Messi or Jordan, but we need the leadership skills of the 17th man, of the 21st woman, of everybody on that team in order for us to compete and play the best. And that's what I did at Nike. It was corporate leadership. Well, that's what I work with. I worked in HR, and we ran a course called Product Creation University, and it was all about how do we make the best corporate athletes. We make them by realizing everyone has a role on that team. We don't all get to be the star. Some of us have to carry the water or carry the bags. But when you as the coach, you as the leader, see and value their role, they can get exactly what they're meant to get out of it. If you don't value them, cut them. And the number of coaches that well, the parents will complain and I have to do it because they're no, you are not doing the parents a favor, because every night when that kid comes home crying, and you're definitely not doing the kid a favor. Again, there's ways to grow and develop people. And that's what I ended up playing for a woman at William and Mary who was in my wedding, who I speak to every month, like once a month, 35 years later.
mm,
Why? Because she saw me. She saw
mm.
me for my foils and all, for things that I did well and things that I needed to work on. And she said, Kirsten, you're good at these things and let's work on those things. And she held me accountable. Those people are
Great.
in.
Yeah. Hey, good. I mean, I felt the emotion. I love that. It's great. Two more questions, then we'll get to a little bit of a lightning round. The thing that I worry about most and what I see in youth sports today is burnout. Give me quick couple of things that parents should look for. What are the signs of burnout?
That you don't have any downtime. The American Academy of Pediatrics recommends that each child take 2 months off in between sports. Of course, that's laughable.
No.
2 days off, you mean? So their bodies are breaking down. Their
Mhm.
minds are breaking down because of the pressure. They're feeling overwhelmed. And even the best athletes, they're not getting a chance to recharge. They're not sleeping. They're on their devices. They're not eating. Like when I work with athletes, some of the first questions I ask, how many hours a night are you getting to sleep? What are you drinking tonight? How much are you
Yeah.
meditating, visualizing? What are you writing down about what you're doing? Like those are the tools that they're going to take with them for life, and they're going to apply it to whatever's next.
Yeah. I get it. Um, the next question is about legacy. And I think, those of us of a certain age, we start to wonder, did we make a difference? As I told you, the second principle of our business is, how do you use athletics to better the lives of the people around you, whether it's your friends, your family, your neighbors. Professionally, now you're working with people, so you have a long list. And I'm sure that you have a coaching tree that's pretty significant from Nike as well. So my question to you is, what do you hope your legacy is? And I'll frame it by this. When I work with young people today, I challenge them with this question. If you disappeared today, would anyone care tomorrow? And so, Kirsten Jones, what do you hope your legacy is?
In 1995, when I joined Nike, If You Let Me Play had just come out. If you haven't seen that ad, put it in Google and look it up. It makes me cry today. But the gist of it is young girls who see that if I play sports, I'm more likely to leave a man who beats me. I'm less likely to have cancer. 94% of C-suite women played sports. I have more agency. I have more ownership. And again, parents of daughters and boys, but like it's about you understanding that you are enough just as you are. So I hope that, again, with my own kids, even, we all go through those phases where they don't want to listen to what you say. But I started a podcast 7 years ago and I thought, okay, worst case scenario, when I leave, if they really miss me, they can go back and listen to a few of these things, right? I don't know if I'm any wiser than anybody else, but I believe that I hope through my own experiences and being vulnerable and honest about them, parenting is hard. Being a kid is even harder right now. I don't think there's been a time where it's been this much, light shining on. In fact, I heard a really interesting statistic. The healthiest Americans, or I don't know how valid this is, but I thought it was fascinating. The healthiest American in the United States are the Amish because they don't have devices. They work with their hands. They connect face to face with people every day. And they're living as we all did 100 years ago. And I think
Yeah.
there's a lot to be said of that around the kids that I see disappearing mentally are, and my own included, right? Like I'm raising my hand, they're on their devices, they're feeling not enough.
Yep.
So
Great.
if I can help with that, even just one smidgen, one person says, yes, it helped, I would be grateful.
Great answer. All right, little quick lightning round. I have 3 questions for you, then we'll let you go solve the world's youth sports problems. What's the one myth about youth sports that you'd like to bust?
That you pay a bunch of money and you're going to get the trophy. You're going to get the trophy but you're going to get the scholarship. I mean, I
Yeah,
think that's being busted now, but there still is a disconnect for these parents who never played. They don't understand. It's not out of ill
yeah,
will. It's just they don't know the rules.
yeah. Great one. Yeah, no, I think the myth of the Division I scholarship is real. I'm a lacrosse dad, and NCAA Division I men's lacrosse is 12.6 scholarships. Yet I can't tell you how many hundreds of people have told me that their kid's on a full athletic scholarship, and I know better than that. But we don't fight with them. Second one, what was this personal question? What was your favorite ritual between you and your kids on the way to sporting events?
Oh. I think letting them go into their own world to prepare. I mean, I think for a while it was always like, "What are you thinking? Are you excited?" And sometimes it was them putting on the headphones, or if not, for a while I live in Los Angeles, so I lived in my car, particularly for years and years while I had 3 kids at 3 different schools. I would drop a podcast or a book on that I was listening to, and it was always fun to hear a couple. Maybe even months or years later. Yeah. Remember that book? And in there he talked about because they pretend like they're not interested, but then they're absorbing, they're sponging. So allowing them to have their experience and hey, I love to watch you play. Just go out there and have a great time, and I'm here to support you.
Last question. Raising Empowered Athletes, your book. Lots of great stories and real world experience. What's your favorite to share with people?
My favorite story.
Yeah.
There's a lot. One of the funny ones, I think, we were living in Buffalo. My son was maybe 10. It was raining sideways, as you know it can in Buffalo. And I was on the way to a soccer tournament. And so I dropped him off at the field and then I ran to a Target to get whatever, a third umbrella. And I'm checking out. And this woman sees what I'm buying and she's like, "Oh, where are you headed?" I said, "To a soccer tournament." And she kind of chuckled and she said, "Oh, I did that." And I said, "Oh yeah, was it fun?" She said, Yeah. I loved it so much." And finally my son graduated high school and I said, "Oh, son, are you gonna miss soccer?" And he said, "Mom, I stopped loving soccer 5 years ago, but I didn't want to break your heart, so I just kind of stuck with it for you."
Yeah. Yeah. Touches you, right? Gets you going. This has been great, Kirsten, and you've shared some personal stories and professional stories and lots of wisdom. Thank you for that. If people want to learn more about you, website, book, social, how do we find you?
Thank you, Mark, for having me. I love it. Your questions were super insightful too. It made me think, which I love. KirstenJonesInc.com, my podcast, Raising Athletes, on Spotify and Apple. I do speaking engagements with clubs, with schools. I do work one-on-one. If you want to go onto my website and book a free 30-minute call, we can talk about what you're going through at the moment. But again, I'm here to serve. I really truly want to help parents when they're going through the thick of it, and athletes, and administrators, everybody who's supporting these athletes and getting. I'm on the socials too, but you can find me all the places.
Yeah. Well, you've done a great job, and I'm going to try and get that entitled word out of my head. It's Raising Empowered Athletes. It's a great book. It's a great concept of humanity today, right? We need a little bit more balance in life. We need to go down the middle of the road and not get stuck on the shoulders. So, thank you very much, and we certainly wish you well with your business and your family, and your son who's a college athlete. We'll cheer for him in the coming season. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark.